north as far by the largest of the 7 kingdoms.
That's not what Jon Snow sounds like! Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. We are
Mugshots Reacts!
I'm Stephanie.
I'm Ashley.
I'm Lindsay.
Today, we are going to be reacting to Histories and Lore Season 3. So again, full transparency. This is a little bit out of order. We've seen some of Season 4, but not all of it. We're not quite halfway through.
2 or 3 episodes.
Yeah.
3?
Yeah.
Something.
Yeah. So, it's a little out of order, so apologies for that if that bothers you. But we're filming it when we can film it. So I needed some time to just go through it and make sure that there weren't spoilers for House of the Dragon. And I just didn't have the opportunity to do that before. So we're doing it now.
It's also been a rough winter.
It's been a rough winter, you guys.
Busy winter, rough winter.
Yes, busy, so many things. All right. Histories and Lore.
Yeah.
So I kind of looked ahead at this one. I think there's like a lot more about like the different families in this one, which I think are ones that you guys like a lot. So yeah, should be interesting. I tried not to like watch too much of it because I want to be kind of fresh, but I have seen some of it this morning, so all good. So before we get into it, the business end, if you have not subscribed to the channel yet, please do so. There's a little button right there you can click to subscribe. We really appreciate it. And you can hit the bell icon to be notified when new videos are posted, as well as like the video. That really helps us out, and it's free to you to like our videos.
It's free to subscribe. It's free.
It's free. Yeah. And please leave a comment down below. We love the discussions that come up on the Histories and Lore videos. They're really awesome. And if it's a spoilery comment, that's okay. You can just put a little star for me, and I won't share it with these guys until later. All right, if you want to support us in other ways, you can check out our links down below in the description. There's some awesome new merch. We have new stuff coming out all the time. If there's anything that you guys want us to make, leave a comment and we can make it.
Custom orders.
Yeah. If you are interested in seeing our videos up to 2 weeks early, plus seeing the uncut versions of all of our videos and some bonus content, please join our Patreon. So lots of fun stuff there, including access to our Discord, and for our top criminal mastermind tier, exclusive discounts to our store as well. So if you're interested in joining that, please check out the links below. We love our Patreon family. Really appreciate you guys a lot for all of your support. Okay. Do you just want to get into it, or do you
Let's just do it.
Just do it?
Okay.
Yeah. And I go. The North, Jon Snow. Okay.
As a boy, looking out from my father's castle, I thought the sun could never set on the north, so vast did it seem. Part of me still does. The north is by far the largest of the 7 kingdoms, and can fit the other 6 inside it.
Ooh. Yeah, it's massive.
Not that the others care. Cold and damp. That's how the southerners see the north.
It's like Russia.
Without
huge.
the cold, a
And
man
Canada.
can't appreciate the fire in his hearth. Without the rain, a man can't appreciate the roof over his head. Let the south have its sun, flowers and affectations. We northerners have home.
I don't know, flowers sound great.
No, yeah.
The ancient seat of my
Not with you, John.
father's family, House Stark, who have ruled the north since the first men and were once the kings of winter. Growing up, Lady Catelyn made sure I knew I wasn't a Stark.
Yeah.
No matter how much blood I shared with her true-born children. But where their name rules over the north, mine is the north. Snow. Our land stretches from the wall down to the neck, a narrow land that divides us from the rest of Westeros. Legend has it that the children of the forest flooded it in their war against the first men. If that's true, every Northman owes them a debt of gratitude. The swamps of the neck are as good as the wall for keeping out unwelcome armies. And if the swamps don't deter you, the Crannog men should. Small, shy people who rarely leave those swamps, and who follow House Reed.
Remember House Reed?
The
Yeah.
gatekeepers of the north. And the most important
Jojen
loyal
and his
bannermen
sister
of House
Meera.
Stark. Also
meet
a
up
bit
with Bran.
strange.
Right.
Yes.
I just need
Their
like
oath of fealty
reminders.
was
Yeah.
Yeah,
charmed.
that's okay.
It's like no other
Visual.
lords. Ancient and dark. They swear by earth and water, by bronze and iron, and by ice and fire. Where House Reed holds the gate to the north, House Manderley holds the port, White Harbour, the closest thing to a southern city we have, governed by the closest thing to a southern family we have. Generations ago, the Manderleys were driven from the Reach, but the Starks gave them their land in return for fealty. Now White Harbour is the richest city of the north, and the Manderleys the richest family. Not in gold and silver like their southern counterparts, but in fish, grain, and trade. As for the other great northern houses, the Starks brought them into the fold during the Age of Heroes. The Stark wrestled Nineborn for Bear Island and gave it to
The Mormons.
The Stark granted a keep and land to a younger son, Carlon, in return for putting down a rebellion. His family then grew up into the Karstarks.
that sounds
Starks
a lot
fought
like
the
the
wildlings
Starks.
and their kings beyond the wall
Karstarks,
beside the
yeah.
Umbers of Last Earth, thus earning their fealty. Boltons.
Ew, yes,
Back then they were the bane of the
they
North.
still are.
Still are.
Few were even rumoured to wear their enemies' flayed skins as cloaks.
Oh.
But after centuries of war, they too bent the knee.
Just even seeing
So
that
House
cross
Stark
giving
became the kings of the
heebie-jeebies.
North,
yeah.
but never forgot that they weren't the North. When Aegon and his dragons landed on Westeros, the kings of the Rock and the Reach sent all their men to die to defend their crowns. Torrhen Stark knelt to spare his people the same fate. He placed duty above pride, just as my brothers in the Night's Watch had done for thousands of years at the Wall. Many think of it as the end of the world, but it's not. I've seen how the land stretches much farther than any man knows, into the land of always winter where the White Walkers came from during the long night. After the first men and the children of the forest beat them back, Brynden the Builder raised the wall and set up the Night's Watch to guard the realms of men. He gave us our oath, our castles and the gift, the lands behind the wall whose farmers and crops sustain us. Southerners may now mock my black brothers as thieves, rapers and worse, and not without cause. But the North remembers why we are there, and if we fall, the South will get a very harsh and very cold reminder.
You want to go to the next one? Yeah? Okay. The Westerlands. Tywin. Oh, I love when Tywin reads them. Or Charles Dance.
The Westerlands
Yeah.
are all bounded by 3 natural defenses: mountain, sea, and forest.
He's like the white
Necessary
Morgan Freeman.
barriers when the land is as rich as ours.
Like with that kind of
From
like
our
commanding
mines come the gold and
Yeah,
silver
he's good.
and
Yeah,
voice
I
and
suppose I can
skates
see that.
and just
Yeah.
like they
From
know
Lannister,
how to
our largest city,
like.
come the most skillful.
Well, he's like
gold
classically
and silver
trained.
Yeah,
actor.
so was
Yeah.
Morgan Freeman.
Yeah, yeah.
Yet geography alone is not strength. The Westerlands would have been sacked and pillaged for thousands of years if it hadn't been for the men who ruled it. My family, House Lannister. According to legend, we trace our descent to Lan the Clever, a trickster of the Dawn Age, who swindled the Casterleys out of Casterly Rock, their ancient castle.
It's interesting they never
A childish
changed the
story,
name.
but not
Yeah.
without merit. One, a mind can and should be a weapon.
Maybe
in
it's
man's
just a
arsenal.
reminder that
Two.
what they could do.
Lan must have been clever enough not to rely solely on his wits. After all, where today is House Casterly. 3, by keeping the Casterly name
Oh,
on
there
the
we go.
castle, Lan reminded the
Nailed
world
it.
Nailed it.
The Rains ignored all these lessons. Not content with being the second richest family, they sought to challenge the first. Mine. My father had put up with their insults and disrespect. When I came of age, I led our army to teach them what they should have known. Some people say I was too harsh, that eradicating every member of their family was not necessary. But now,
Nah, not overkill at all.
there are no bannermen as loyal to their lord as the Westerlands to us. If any lord bridles at our authority, I have only to send a singer with a harp, and he falls back into line. Because I will not have our
think
lords
something like a
squabble amongst
ukulele.
themselves, like the
I don't know if
lords,
that
and
has
easier to travel
or
with.
hide in their castles.
Not the same
like the
impact,
lords of
maybe.
Vale.
Bring
Each
in
of
the
our bowmen contributes a unique skill
There's smaller
that
ones.
furthers the whole of the Westerlands. Ask Clegane, because every lord needs a beast from time to time. Sir Gregor strikes terror into the hearts of our enemies and our friends. So too does his disappointing brother Sandor, the traitor. House Payne, who provides us loyal servants. Sir Ilyn Payne was once captain of my household guard, until the Mad King heard him boast that I ran the 7 kingdoms, which I did.
His tongue, right?
The Mad King tore out Sir Ilyn's tongue, making him especially well suited to later become the King's Justice. Apparently these days, a younger Payne also serves my degenerate son, Tyrion.
God!
House Lefford, who guards the Golden Tooth, the eastern pass through the mountains and the all-too-frequent chaos of the 7 kingdoms. Though after Robb Stark's recent incursions, perhaps we need a new gatekeeper. Fools look at the Westerlands and see gold. Fools see our wealth and call it strength. Gold is just another rock.
It doesn't hurt.
The Westerlands are strong because
Well, it
of
could have
House
got hit
Lannister.
with
From
a
strong leadership
Sure.
comes unity.
I meant
From unity
I know.
comes power.
having money helps. The Riverlands, Brynden Tully.
Is that her dad or?
Yeah.
That would be the
I don't think
Uncle,
Men have fought
the
over
Blackfish.
Riverlands since the Dawn Age. Though that's
They
to be
don't really call him
expected of things
Brynden in the
rest
show.
of
They just call
Okay.
him the Blackfish.
Oh, okay,
Now,
that
Yeah.
was so
Riverlands are between
confused.
everything and everything else. The Westerlands gold, the Reaches grain, the Vale's rock, and the North's snow.
No.
House Mud once ruled as the kings of the rivers and hills, but after 1,000 years their line was exhausted and fell to the Storm Kings, who fell to the Ironborn. I suppose after years of drowning at sea, our rivers look pretty attractive to that race of pirates and rapers. Never mind
years
that
of
their
drowning at
monstrous
sea.
castle, Harrenhal, was too large to staff and garrison. It turned out the Ironborn wouldn't be there long enough to bother. Aegon Targaryen landed to our south, and, as had many before him, liked the look of the Riverlands. My ancestor Edmund Tully led the desertion of Riverlords to his cause, and was rewarded by getting to watch King Harren burn in his own tower.
Great.
Unfortunately, that's not all Edmund got.
It was
House
more?
Tully was named the Lords Paramount of the Trident, which means we had to keep in line all those lords who hadn't governed themselves for thousands of years. We were now responsible for aiding the Lannisters at Seaguard against the pouting Ironborn whenever they got cheeky. For settling Harrenhal on families stupid enough to think its curse would skip them after devouring all previous families. For keeping the Blackwoods and Brackens from wiping each other out, and giving us 2 more castles to deal with. For keeping the Freys in their place and out
Oh,
of
that
others'
panning is
pockets.
making me dizzy.
For hiring off our sons and
I also get the
daughters
shivers when I hear the
wisely,
phrase
so we didn't follow House Mud into,
The mud.
well,
the mud.
the mud. Yet under the Targaryens, the Riverlands knew a peace we hadn't had for centuries, if ever. But like all good things, sooner or later it all goes to shit. And our shit had a name. Aerys Targaryen. Westeros has had its share of mad kings, but usually they had the sense not to bully more than one powerful house at a time. Aerys soon blundered into a triple alliance. The North, Stormlands, and Vale rose against him. But of course, where do you think most of the blood was spilled? My brother Hoster guaranteed the answer to that with the marriage of my niece to Eddard Stark, the Warden of the North.
Yeah,
At
Catelyn.
least Hoster didn't send her to Robert. So, the Riverlands joined the war against the Mad King, and it was on one of our rivers that Prince Rhaegar died, sealing the fate of his dynasty. Robert was a great soldier and the
God, so
horror of the
strong.
king. Drinking and whoring are their own
One of the
brands.
best lines.
Drinking
And
and
whoring.
throne that everybody wants. He died, and another war started. Again the armies marched. Again the Riverlands burned.
Ooh.
If Westeros isn't careful, pretty soon our people will grow some sense and abandon this place for a safer realm, like the Dothraki Sea.
Is that really safer?
A joke. The
He joke.
Riverlands are our home,
Oh.
and God's help us, we
Nice.
love it.
They're not gonna leave.
Still, as they say, the king eats and the hand takes the shit. The same is true of the Riverlands. The 7 kingdoms piss, and the Riverlands change clothes.
Oh my gosh. He likes to use
Euphemisms?
potty things to describe
Stormlands, Brienne of Chars.
peepees and
Tarth has lulled
poopies.
many a novice sailor into complacency. Our lush island sits on calm blue water like an emerald set into a sapphire. You would never guess that such a vision is only the sheath hiding the blade of Shipbreaker Bay, with its treacherous tides, unpredictable gales, and sharp rocks lurking just below the water's surface. The storms that blow through the bay water the Kingswood and Rainwood, 2 of the great forests of Westeros, and they give the Stormlands their name. Even without our weather, we have more than earned our name in strife. The first Storm King, Durran, started his reign by declaring war on the gods themselves.
Good move.
He loved the daughter of the sea god and the wind goddess, but they forbade the union. At their wedding, the gods unleashed their might, pulling down his hold and killing all of Durran's family and guests, though his wife shielded him. Durran vowed to rebuild, and when he did, the gods again destroyed his home. His counselors begged him to retreat inland, but he would not abandon his war. Finally, with the council of the children of the forest, or perhaps a young Bran the Builder, Durran raised a 7th castle that, try as they might, and still
7th.
do, the wind
Yeah.
and sea gods could not tear asunder.
Well, especially back then, like how long did it
Took the name
take
God's
to build a
grief
castle?
and
Like,
called his
holy
new
moly.
home Storm's
I would have
End.
given up after 2.
Having beaten the waters to the east, the Storm Kings turned their gaze to more practical enemies. The Reach, Riverlands, and Dawn. For thousands of years, the Storm Kings fought the Gardener Kings of the Reach and various families of Dawn for control of the Dornish marches just below the Red Mountains. The fighting didn't stop until Dawn married into the 7 Kingdoms, a mere 100 years ago. But still the houses of the Stormlands, such as the Dondarians, guard the Bone Way, the mountain pass into the marches, against any Dornish incursion. The Storm Kings had greater luck to their north, at first. They took the trident from the River Kings and built an empire that stretched as far as the neck. But then the Ironborn swarmed out of their islands and pushed the Storm Kings out of the Riverlands. No doubt the Ironborn intended to
They're such
expand
pests,
their
those
empire.
They
Ironborn.
really are.
Before they had a chance, Aegon Targaryen landed with his dragons. While Aegon burned the kings of the Iron Islands, the Rock and the Reach, his fiercest commander and rumoured bastard brother, Orys Baratheon, set out to subdue the Stormlands. No matter how fierce a warrior he was, no one could have envied his task. Storm's End had seen thousands of years of war and never fallen. But Argilac, the Storm King, chose not to barricade himself behind its walls, and gave Orys the battle he must have hoped for. Orys slew Argilac, and took Argilac's castle, kingdom, daughter, sigil, and house words.
Oh, just
Baratheon
everything.
became the lord
Yeah.
of the Stormlands. Targaryen ruled
Didn't
quiet
even
in the
leave a crumb.
Stormlands for the most part, until Robert rebelled against the Mad King. His first challenge came not from the crown, but from his own bannermen, who tried to join forces against him. Robert struck first, defeating 3 armies in a single day at Summerhall. The victory cemented Robert's control of the Stormlands, and he was able to march on the Reach and Riverlands with no enemy to his rear. Yet not all of Robert's bannermen sided with him. Sir Barristan the Bold came from the Stormlands, but as the preeminent member of Aerys Kingsguard and greatest knight in the realm, Sir Barristan remained loyal. After Robert's decisive victory on the Trident, Robert sent his own maester to care for his countryman Sir Barristan, who who had suffered grievous wounds whilst fighting so hard to kill him. Later, when the Kingslayer betrayed Aerys, Robert pardoned Sir Barristan and even took him onto his own Kingsguard. When Robert lifted Mace Tyrell's ill-managed siege of Storm's End and returned to his ancestral home, he realized the dream of all the Stormlords before him, to rule the 7 kingdoms. Then Robert died, and his brother Stannis killed their other brother, the noble King Renly, with black magic. Now the Stormlands again live up to their name, with so many houses burnt on the Black Water.
I just
and
always
others
hear
crying
magical
fame
blood
of
clot
the
in my head.
Lannisters
This is all your
and
fault.
survivors. Renly could have saved us.
They should have named it.
We saved him. But I will teach Stannis a lesson he should have learnt growing up
good.
in the Stormlands.
I hope so.
As lightning gives way to thunder, so too must murder lead to vengeance.
Yes.
Watch out for Brienne.
Yeah, except magic.
The Vale, Petyr Baelish.
Impregnable. That's how the Vale sees itself. Shielded from Westeros by its mountains. They call the entrance to their land the Bloody Gate because, during the Age of Heroes, a dozen armies supposedly smashed themselves against it. Even if they'd gotten through, the roads of the Vale are narrow, steep, and treacherous. Half their men would have slipped to their deaths, or frozen in the mountain snow.
Yeah.
Or so the common wisdom goes. Except the Vale has been conquered. Those vaunted mountains didn't stop the Andals who came by the Eastern Sea. The people of the Vale say that Sir Artus Arryn, the Andal general, flew on the back of a giant falcon and slew the Griffin King on top of the tallest mountain. During Aegon's conquest, one of his sisters did the same, flying her dragon over the Bloody Gate and up to the Eyrie, the Arryn stronghold. And the Arryn boy king yielded the Vale in return for a ride on the beast. Do you sense the theme here? The rationalizing of defeats with mythical beasts and the whims of children, instead of acknowledging the root cause, the arrogance of isolation. The men of the Vale are so proud of their mountains, they can't abide any flaw in them. As with the mountains, so too with their blood. The first Andals landed in the Vale as its most powerful lords, the Arryns, the Waynwoods, the Corbrays, like to brag. Through their veins runs the blood of the oldest Andal nobility in Westeros, but through their brains runs an even older folly. That blood matters. If it did, those pure-born lords should have been able to exterminate the hill tribes centuries ago. But
We haven't
those
seen them for a
primitive
little while.
raiders, whose tribes more resemble kennels than families, continue to plague the Vale, even kidnapping an Arryn once. Until Tyrion Lannister, an outsider, no Vale lord ever thought to turn the tribes to the Vale's advantage. That a desperate, warlike people could be useful, not to mention inexpensive. But perhaps the Vale lords consider such thoughts beneath them. After all, the Vale's isolation does breed an abundance of honor and pious bleating, which governs their decisions instead of foresight. Like a blind man who can only guess where his horse is taking him. I doubt Jon Arryn had even prepared for civil war when he raised his banners instead of handing over his young wards, Ned Stark and Robert Baratheon, to the Mad King. Honor demanded, and Lord Arryn obeyed. He'd have done the same if the boys hadn't been the lords of two great houses, who could field mighty armies of their own. But perhaps I give him too little credit. After all, if the war went against them, only Lord Arryn had a nice, impregnable castle to retreat into, and he was wise enough to take poor Lysa Tully into his bed to win the Riverlands as allies. Jon Arryn won, then Jon Arryn died. Wisely, the Vale stayed out of all the ensuing chaos. Its crops did not burn or wither in the fields from lack of men to tend them. Its strength was not
the stones.
by forced marches to futile skirmishes. In the Vale, life proceeds as it always has. Calm, proud. A world of high honor undisturbed by armies and men of low birth, but high ambition. Impregnable.
Impregnable.
just reminds me of the Bronze line. It's like, give me 20 men and I'll impregnate the bitch.
Is aptly named. We're the ones who give your hands something to do at the table. As the most fertile region of the Seven Kingdoms, we grow the lion's share of the grains and fruit that feed this country. Especially now, since the rebels have burned down the other fields. Thankfully, House Tyrell is here to do its duty to the crown and keep the capital from starvation.
I wish there
Yet,
wouldn't be
as
as
with
much
all
repetition
gardens,
in some of
weeds
these.
grow in the
Like,
reach.
There's a
this-
lot of
There are a few
repetition.
names.
Yeah, well, but this one's
Singers
specifically
fill our
is like
heads
almost the
with
same as
chivalry and
in
courtly
the
love.
season 2 one.
Fluff to make boys fight and girls swoon. Oh, the songs are good enough for a pleasure barge down the Manda. They give pleasure to the common people and harmony to the realm. But if the rise of House Tyrell proves anything, it's that virtue and honor have their place. And if you're not careful, that place is the grave. Unlike the Lannisters, Starks, and Arryns, we were never kings in our own right. House Gardner ruled the Reach since the Dawn Age, and we were their stewards. While they warred to enrich their already rich domain, we managed their castle of Highgarden. But then Aegon Targaryen landed with his dragons. Nobody knows why the Gardener King took the field against him. Anyone could see that a man who grows flowers should beware a man who grows fire-breathing monsters. But maybe it wasn't wholly his idea. Maybe someone whispered in his ear about all the face he'd lose with the other 6 kings if he stayed home. The rest is history. The last Gardener King lost his face, along with his body, and his steward Harlan Tyrell promptly yielded Highgarden to Aegon. My grandmother swears that Harlan was like most of our men and grew up banging steel together too loudly for a thought to penetrate. But luckily,
I thought it was
his
gonna end
wife
up banging.
had better sense.
Oh.
Whatever the case, in return for Harlan's show of sense, Aegon proclaimed House Tyrell the Lords of the Reach and Wardens of the South, passing over all the other houses with better claims. House Hightower, who were kings before the Andals came, their seat is the oldest city in Westeros. They call it Old Town. Wealthy, proud, and solitary. There have been Hightowers who wouldn't come down from their great lighthouse for decades. Its name, fittingly, is the Hightower. House Florent, who had actual blood ties
They're really
to
creative.
Gardner.
Very.
They whinge about their ancient rights to Highgarden every once in a while, and now that their daughter is married to Stannis Baratheon, about their rights to all of Westeros too. Apparently, putting a fox on your banners doesn't impart a fox's wiles. House Tarly, who still gives the Reach the best
Sam's house.
soldiers it has. If Aegon had named them as his lords, the Reach would have become the greatest military camp in the world, until it starved to death. The price for conscripting all the farmers. Yet Aegon chose
Sam?
us. Centuries later, when his descendant Aerys faced rebellion,
Sam the Slayer.
the Reach
Yeah,
stayed
man.
loyal. Mostly. My father, Mace, dealt Robert his only defeat in the war, even if it was my father's vanguard who did most of the fighting before he arrived. After the Battle of Ashford, we laid siege to Storm's End, Robert's home. Unfortunately, the war ended before we could take it and free up our armies to go save the king. The new King Robert had a forgiving nature. Our crimes were brushed aside without even one execution for the sake of formality. Our family was surprised until Robert's new hand, Jon Arryn, came by with the bill. The Reach is second only to the Westerlands in wealth, and Robert meant to spend as much of it as he could get his hands
Swan
on.
has a little crown on his
Yeah.
head.
Any things he wanted, and later, when he wanted our grain or fruit or wine, he gave them back at whatever price we set. Now, much of Westeros is ashes. The rest of it is armies. As the Starks are fond of saying, winter is coming, and for leagues outside the capital there isn't a harvest to be seen. Have no fear. The Reach is, as always, bountiful. House Tyrell will manage the harvest and keep the Seven
that's the
Kingdoms
grandma.
from starvation. Like the good
Olenna.
stewards we once were. Just ask House Gardner.
Except you can't, because they're gone.
really fast for me. I am having a hard time following, but
You want to
it's
pause
okay.
for a second?
Me too.
We can pause
I'm
for a
also
second.
very cold.
Like, it's just like house to house to house, and I'm like, whoa, I haven't even like made sense of what they just said. I just find it hard to follow.
Yeah, I'm
My
having a
brain's
really
like,
hard time too. But I think I just connected why she was always so helpful to the poor. I didn't...
Margaery?
Because it said that they were the largest producers of grain and like the food, and that it was kind of like their duty to keep people fed.
To feed the realm.
Yeah, like I didn't really
understand that before.
No.
Yeah.
I just was like, I thought it was something to do with like some sort of motive she had. But
Well, it might be that
it
too.
still could be, but like it's rooted in
Who they are as
Yeah.
people.
For
which
sure.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, these are like
it's moving way faster than the other ones.
Well, but I think
swear.
it is. I think it is, and I think
Okay.
part of it is that because there is a lot of repetition, so they're kind of like expecting you to know it already.
there was a lot of names in there I didn't call.
Oh, that's not my color.
And I almost
just
feel like I
joking.
need like a
Thank
flow chart, like, or to make
Well,
one as
I
this
think-
is
I think
happening.
you guys need
because
to. You
I
guys
can't
need to make one because I can't make it
process.
for
No,
you.
no.
No,
Also, you
but
know
what I would normally do, so what if we weren't kind of on like a time thing, I would probably watch it and make a flow chart and like make sense of each thing they said. Like, it would probably, this is an hour long, it would probably take me like 3 hours.
Yeah. You know when you show us some comments sometimes?
Yeah.
And there was one making fun of me because like I squint like an old lady.
Yeah.
And I can't see. Well, I thought maybe these would help for the dark scenes.
I literally have the thing turned
They're
up.
night
They're
driving
night
glasses.
driving glasses. What do you think?
I mean, if that's the look you want to go for, it's your prerogative. Okay, should we keep going?
Yeah.
Are you gonna wear them or not?
Oh, I just did it to bug you for
Oh.
now, but because none of this
You're not bugging me.
none of this is really dark.
Yeah.
It's- but
No.
I'm just gonna have them on
Animated.
hand.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Oh. Put your thing back in. Battle of Qohor, Jorah Mormont.
When the Doom claimed Valyria, the great freehold fractured into warring cities and upstart nations, ripe for the taking. Out of the east swarmed the Dothraki, the horse lords of the plains who feared only defeat, and dragons. And now the dragons were all gone. Under the great Khal Temu, they sacked and burnt every town and city in their path. No army could stand against them, because the Dothraki do not stand. The horse lords do not draw up battle lines or hide behind shield walls or lair themselves in armor. The Dothraki
I don't know how many
charge.
Dothraki
Their
Daenerys
blades
has
are
left.
more
I was
side
I
than
know
sword.
I was gonna
They
say
devour the
how many
infantry ranks
Dothraki
without
are
moving
left.
stride.
There's a lot of them
Even
are,
their
yeah.
archers
In
fire
part,
from
yeah.
horseback so that advancing or retreating, the arrows never cease. To the Dothraki, a man who does not ride is no man at all.
But there were
without
some that
honor
did
or
separate.
pride.
Remember?
When the
Oh
city
yeah,
of
yeah.
Qohor
They
realized
left her.
Khal
Yeah.
Temu was coming,
No, there's still
They
certainly
strengthened their
Dothraki left in
walls.
the
Yeah.
world.
doubled
Yeah.
their own guards, and hired 2 full companies of sellswords. The Dothraki were used to glorified farmers with spears. Qohor would show them a proper army, with mounted and armored cavalry to match the Horde's own. As an afterthought, the city leaders sent an envoy to Astapor to buy Unsullied.
Nipple cutters.
The slavers had always claimed
only
that the
one!
Unsullied were the great Giscari
There's been
legions
many
come
nipple
again.
cutters, I'm sure.
Few cared. The dragon-burned ruins of old Ghis were a stark reminder that the age of the foot soldier was over. The envoy had his orders, however, and quickly bought 3,000 Unsullied for the long march back. For Unsullied do not ride. But while they marched, Khal Temu
Daenerys had
arrived at
8,000.
Qohor. I can imagine how pleased the Khal was to finally face a challenge. By the end of the battle, crows and wolves feasted on what remained of Qohor's heavy horse. All the sellswords had fled. Qohor knew that the Dothraki would very soon break through the gates to rape, slave, and burn at their pleasure. Yet the next day, Karl Temo woke to find, before the gates, 3,000 eunuchs in formation, armed with only spears, shields, and spiked helms. The Unsullied had slipped past the Karl's army in the night while the Dothraki feasted.
Sneaky, sneaky.
Karl Temo had many times their number and could easily have flanked the small force.
They didn't peace out, they just snuck past them
Men on
to
foot
defend the
fit
city.
only to be ridden down. 18 times the Horse Lords charged, and 18 times the Unsullied locked their shields, lowered their spears, and held the line against 20,000
That's like a Viking
Dothraki
tactic
screamers.
to like make
When the
the
Karl's
shield
archers
wall.
rained arrows on them, the Unsullied lifted their
Maybe we'll
shields
have to
above
watch
their
the Viking
heads
shows.
until the squall passed,
They're good.
and then they held the line. In the end, only 600 Unsullied remained, but more than 12,000 Dothraki lay dead, including Karl Temo and all his sons.
Yeah.
The new Karl led the survivors past the city gates, where one by one, each man cut off his braid and threw it down before the feet of the Unsullied, defeated and shamed forever. Since that day, the Unsullied fill the ranks of cities and households wealthy enough, or desperate enough. Sellswords fight for gold, knights for glory, and Dothraki for blood. To a man, the Unsullied fight only to obey. With
That
the
did a
right
lot for
master
their
over
PR
them,
team.
eventually the forces of chaos would break against their shields. The conquerors,
Great PR.
the madmen, the usurpers.
Pre-Twitter and social media.
Did you want to
media
pause?
Era.
No.
No.
Old
that one I
Ghis
got.
and Slaver's Bay. Jorah again.
Valyria was not the first to conquer the world. In the dawn of days, the city of Ghis opened its gates and poured forth its legions across the continent of Essos. With their lockstep discipline and absolute obedience, they ground entire nations beneath their boots and planted the Harpy in every
the
part
Harpy.
of the known
That's
world.
what that's called.
What they didn't destroy, they chained. Slavery is as old as man, but until the Giscari, it was never an art.
Schools like the
The
pyramid.
slave lords grew rich and fat as pyramids were raised around them, pleasure houses were filled, and fighting pits were opened. Nobody remembers if the waters around Ghis had names before the Empire, but ever since, we know them only as Slaver's Bay.
Yeah,
and
it's
the
not
Gulf
maybe a
of
great
Grief.
place to live though.
Of
Doesn't
Ghis,
sound-
however,
unless you're a
nothing
master.
Oh, it
remains
sounds
but
charming.
ruins,
Yeah.
where end all
Vacation
great
down in
Let's buy,
civilizations.
let's buy a vacation.
5,000 years ago, Valyrian shepherds stumbled on strange eggs. And within a few generations, an upstart Valyrian freehold rose across the sea. 5 times did the Giscari contend with Valyria, and 5 times did they go down in defeat. For the freehold had dragons, and the Empire had none. The best of their legions burned, the others broke. The brick walls of Ghis were pulled down, the streets and buildings turned to ash, and the very fields sown with salt, sulfur, and skulls. Yet the Empire was not wholly destroyed. Astapor, Yunkai, and Meereen, once lowly colonies along Slaver's Bay, survived, and even thrived. Valyria had watched the Giscari grow rich and powerful off the backs of conquered peoples, and now the self-styled freehold wanted its
It's a funny
turn.
looking dragon.
Yeah.
While the Dragon Lords brought the world to heel, the slave markets of their former enemy never lacked for flesh. Lamenting the lost empire, the descendants of old Ghis grew rich and fat. The doom fell on Valyria, and the Dothraki rose to pillage most of the continent at will. But gold-laden Astapor, Yunkai, and Meereen continue as they have for thousands of years, untouched. For even the Horse Lords understand what the Giscari taught Valyria so long ago. What good are slaves without slavers?
But Daenerys is making her way through.
Yeah.
Lord of Light. Oh, Thoros of Myr. Yay.
I was born youngest of 8 in Myr, across the narrow sea. So my father gave me over to the Red Temple. In their wisdom, they decided to make me a priest instead of a warrior or a temple prostitute like other children. It was not the path I would have chosen. Sure, I prayed the prayers and I spoke the spells, but I also led raids on the kitchens. And from time to time, they found girls in my bed. Such wicked girls. I never knew how they got
I bet.
Then again, I did have a gift for tongues.
Okay.
And when I gazed into the flames, well, from time to time I saw things. Even so, I was more bothered than I was worth.
Who's Thoros?
When the High Priest foresaw Robert's ascension, he said...
So that's the guy
In the
who...
cave that, like, got back... He said he didn't believe until, right? Someone came back to life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So he's with the Brotherhood without banners.
Oh.
And he's their red... He's like their red priest.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just can't see his face.
He's got like longer hair, but a hairline that's far back, and he kind of like ties it up. And he was the one that was speaking like with Arya, and
that he brought back that guy that died like 8 or 9 times already.
Beric Dondarrion.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And who else was in there? The cave, like a cavernous.
Yeah. And that was there was the fight between the Hound and Beric Dondarrion. Yeah, because Arya accused him, and then Thoros brought Beric back to life.
Okay. Yeah, and he's the one, because, he was like, oh, they just made me a priest. That's how I remembered, because I don't remember names. I'm like, oh, he's the guy that was like, oh, I didn't believe anything until this moment, till he brought the guy back to life.
Okay, it's ringing a bell.
Yeah. Ding, ding. Okay,
set me to turn the Storm Lord to the Lord of Light. When Robert seized his crown, we'd take all of Westeros from the Seven in a single stroke. Perhaps they thought Robert would listen to a kindred spirit, or perhaps celibacy had addled the High Priest's brain. I didn't know, and didn't care.
Yeah, so they sent him to Robert to try to convert him to the Lord of Light.
I did my duty as I saw it. Drinking and whoring
Wasn't
and
very
waving. The only gods Robert cared about anyway. Years passed, Robert became king, I became a joke. We both became fat. I even won some glory in Greyjoy's rebellion, first through the breach and all that. It's amazing what boldness a full bladder can inspire. But Robert had stopped listening to my sermons a long time ago, even if I'd still bothered to give them. Then came Robert's death, and the war. I'm not speaking of those brats squabbling over the world's pointiest chair. Towers and moving through the land. I've seen them in my flames. Shit, I've seen them with my own 2 eyes. The Lord of Light is real. And if he's real, then all of it is real. Man once again faces the war for the dawn, which has been waged since time began. On one side is the Lord of Light, the heart of fire, the god of flame and shadow. Against him stands the great other, whose name may not be spoken. The Lord of Darkness, the soul of ice, the god of night and terror. According to prophecy, our champion will be reborn, to wake dragons from stone and reforge the great sword Lightbringer that defeated the darkness those thousands of years ago. If the old tales are true, a terrible weapon forged with the lifeblood of a loving wife's heart. Part of me thinks man was well rid of it, but great power requires great sacrifice. That much, at least, the Lord of Light is clear on. I sound like a dried-out old woman, I know. But as our former hand liked to say, winter is coming. When the cold winds rise, all men, no matter their faith or lack of it, huddle beside my night fires. And I pray the prayers, and speak the spells, and beseech the Lord of Light to bring back the dawn. So far, so good. But reprobate as I am, I can't help but wonder what will happen if, one day, our Lord does not answer. Imagine a night that goes on forever, so dark and full of terrors.
Full of terrors!
I think I
So do I.
I was gonna pause it there. Yeah, what do you think of that? The Lord of Light against the other?
The soul of ice. Well, I think that the White Walkers and all that north of the wall. Bad guys, maybe, and the Lord of Light clan are the good guys. Make it simple. It's good against evil. Fire against ice.
I don't know. I still think I'm convinced that the Lord of Light isn't really like exactly the Lord of Light. I think it's the dragon stone giving power.
The Dragonstone?
Or
Dragonstone is an island.
Yeah, but it's on the dragon glass, I mean.
Okay.
Yeah,
and I think it's through the glass that they're getting power and visions. It's technically really not like a god, but I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy.
I think you're wrong.
But I thought she has that stone on her neck.
Yeah,
and then there's all that.
I think,
but I feel like
the Lord of Light against the Soul of Ice, or the other.
Also,
they literally telling us.
They did show us the dragon glass, and it was what color?
Well,
red.
Red, but
no,
black.
It was black. Sorry.
I mean,
and her necklace is red.
Just when it. Oh.
I don't know. They haven't mentioned dragon glass in reference to the Lord of Light once.
No.
So I'm not sure where you're getting that
They just
from.
happen to be
just
on that island.
In my mind, thinking it's powerful.
I mean, that's still possible, but it's I don't know.
I think it's I think it's like.
But you really see
them
as the good.
It's
over
a
the
song
evil?
of ice and fire, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's the Lord of Light is like light and fire and shadow, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the Soul of Ice, the other, which is they said that the dead something walking or something. So that is the White Walkers and stuff north of that big army. I think it's ultimately going to become it's
Do you think that there really is like a good and evil though, or are they just two forces?
I don't see them as good and evil.
Yeah,
I
maybe
think they're
not.
both.
So maybe it's not good and evil.
I think
it's just
the
ice
Lord
and
of Light
fire.
is darkness too.
Yeah, I think there's maybe darkness in all of it.
Yeah, that's why I was like, that doesn't sit right with me. It's not like an obvious like good and bad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just personally have a hard time reconciling like all of the sacrifices and stuff with like a power of good.
It's very like black magic-y or whatever.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, no, that's not like.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, where like, the Khaleesi, hers is like pure good. Her like.
I don't know about that. I actually don't agree. I think that she has some crazy inbred Targaryen deep down inside. I think she is good and she has like lots of really good qualities, but that doesn't mean there's like she's perfect 100% pure. I don't think she is.
No, but even if that is the case, she's the most like the best currently example of like good versus like
she's freeing slaves.
Yeah.
She's the breaker of chains for sure. I
Mm-hmm.
like that for sure, but I don't know if
she's the freaking mother of dragons.
The power won't go to her head.
Again, you're allowed to have differences of opinion.
She's gonna bring like a complete overhaul of like I think the entire like realm. That's what she's like,
I am envisioning a battle of like
there will be battles.
Stannis is leading the Lord of Light people and the White Walkers, and I'm not sure where Daenerys and the dragons are gonna come into that. That's what I.
Well, yeah, we definitely have no idea, but I see her as like the one that will triumph.
All right,
as the good.
We shall see.
And have a whole new world order.
A whole new world. All right. So your favorite will be the narrator of the Red Keep here.
Oh, God. I'm going to take my earpiece out.
No.
It's okay. He's dead now.
That's what the Red Keep is.
Not anymore.
The small folk say its color comes from the blood Aegon spilled to win his crown. Fool.
He does
Blood
have a
doesn't sink
horrid,
into stone. No
like,
matter
creepy
how
voice.
hard I
Yeah.
try.
I know, it's making my
Aegon
ear
built
itch.
his castle of red rock to remind
Well,
people
and then
of the
this
fires he
isn't his
roasted
real
his
accent
enemies.
either.
So whenever King's
Oh,
Landing
wow.
looked up, they'd see the price of defiance.
He's Irish.
He knew the first
Oh,
rule of kings. Only fear keeps men in line. Fear and punishment. A lesson he taught his son, Maegor. When the builders finally finished the Red Keep, Maegor executed them all to keep its secrets safe. Rumor has it, miles of hidden passageways run behind the walls and under the floors. One day I'll have to find them. Traitors and women work in shadows. A king has no need for secrecy.
He really is
Now,
just a piece of
people
work,
name
though.
Maegor cruel, but I doubt any dared in his day. His strength was all too rare in the degenerate Targaryen blood. The simpering Baelor, the Blessed, created the Maiden Vault to imprison his own sisters and save himself from carnal thoughts. Disgusting. Though, I admit a prince
Wonder what he would
could
think
be
of his own
amazing
parents.
when
I know,
hunger was
ironic.
my favorite place in the Red
I
Keep?
think it's gross.
There's so many. The Traitor's Walk, where I mount the heads of my enemies. It's a shame flesh rots so slowly. I've almost run out of spikes. The dungeons are also quite nice once you get past the first 2 levels. A stable for common criminals and private cells for useful highborns. How boring, I know. But then you come to the black cells. No windows, no torches, just darkness, and whatever you hear in there with you.
It would be absolutely
Here we
terrifying.
keep the greatest
Poor Ned
traitors
down there.
until the king is ready for them. And with these, I often like to take my time. But I've heard rumors of an even lower, hidden level, Maegor's favorite. Once a man was taken here, he never saw the sun again, nor heard a human voice, nor breathed a breath free of agonizing pain. Varys must know the way, but that overgrown girl pretends not to. Maybe he fears I'll make him a victim. Maybe I will. Then again, torture chambers are just so private. Better to punish your enemies where everyone can see and remember. Like that Targaryen who forced his nephew to watch as he fed the boy's traitor mother to a dragon. Oh, what I could do with a dragon.
Thank God he doesn't have.
Yeah,
Even
thank
Aegon, fool as he was, knew to burn men alive with an audience, to spread the terror far and wide across his kingdoms. Of course, I know my favorite place now. When I sit on the Iron Throne, high in the Red Keep, all of Westeros scuttles below me, like insects, waiting for my heel to land.
My only thought about that is I wish he would have been tortured. Like he had talked about in that.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of just...
Yeah, it was, I mean, I think it was a pretty horrible death. And yeah, just reminder, we have seen that already. Yeah, it wasn't like, it was, but yeah, it could, you think it could have been longer and more drawn out than it was.
Yeah, because that's how he was. So
Yeah.
he deserved a torturous, agonizing
That's fair enough.
death with his head on a stake.
All right, Wargs and the Sight, Bran.
I don't know what came over me. I'm usually make love, not war.
Game of Thrones is changing you.
I'm not a sweet summer child.
Growing up, my sister Sansa loved stories with princesses and knights, but I always wanted to be scared. When my turn came, I would ask old Nan to tell us of magic and monsters. Long ago, when the world was new, the children of the forest sang the song of the earth, and the earth listened. Magic was strong in those days, and the children could commune with all the beasts of the forest, streams and air. The greatest of them could even leave their bodies to hunt, swim, and fly in the skins of animals. They were the first wargs. Then, the first men came, with fire and sword. They burned the weirwoods and cut down the children. Calling on dark magic, the children raised the sea and shattered the land bridge that the first men had crossed into dawn. When that
Those
failed,
trees are so freaky, man.
the children brought down
Like
the
they're
hammer
beautiful
of the waters
and
of
terrifying.
Yeah,
flooding
at
and
the same time.
transforming it into the bog it is
These
today.
illustrations are really something else.
After peace came, the two races shared the land and the children's gods for thousands of years. Now comes the good part. Nobody knows how or why, but the magic of the children began to emerge in men. Maybe one child in 1,000 would be born a warg. Fewer still would be born with the sight. Old Nan would not speak of it, and Maester Lewin never believed in it. But with it, the children could know of events far away and even those still to come. Some say the sight was the children's most powerful and terrible secret, and helped turn the tide during the long night. Magic has since fled our world. Among the small folk, any child suspected of being a warg will be left out to die. Beyond the wall, though, a careless hunter might still find his prey has claws and teeth, and a man's mind to guide them. For the wildlings have a different idea of monsters. But even wildlings keep their distance from a warg.
Is that really true though? Because it's like we've seen that they're using
lean in close and whisper.
wargs to help them.
How can you tell if the man is wearing the beast, or the beast is wearing the man? Now, old Nan has no
Maybe just Mance Raider doesn't feel
Maester
like
Lewin will never scoff
Well,
again.
and that's based on what he learned from his
Yeah,
nan.
That's true.
Scary
Yeah,
story
that's
anymore.
true. Yeah.
You know those nans.
Because I'm anyone.
Telling the scary story. Bedtime story.
Making like they know everything and they don't.
Okay, Robert's Rebellion. Well, this should be interesting. We liked the previous one where it was Petyr and Varys having little jabs at each other.
Oh yeah. Woohoo.
Repeated information maybe, but different perspective.
For 300 years, the Targaryen dynasty ruled Westeros. Wars were still fought, homes still burned, and men still died. But compared to the chaos of what came before, the realm was stable.
And boring. The Targaryens lied, thieved, and killed as much as other lords. They just had dragons to answer all complaints. Until they didn't.
Not to the complaint department.
When the last dragon died,
Dragon.
it was only a matter of time before the Targaryens followed.
You're gonna have to call
By
the complete
only,
line.
you mean another century?
Which they wasted trying to replace their lost advantage. Incinerating their own palaces to hatch dragon eggs, drinking wildfire to become dragons, and let's not forget the Mad King's favorite, burning men alive so he could pretend to be a dragon.
We urged Aerys to pardon Brandon Stark. The boy had threatened Prince Rhaegar, but Rhaegar had stolen the boy's sister. And the boy was the eldest son of our Warden of the North.
Who's the greater fool, a Mad King or the man who reasons with him? Aerys saw knives in every shadow. When you told him to treat the Starks with caution, you made him afraid. And what he feared, he killed.
I wouldn't have thought you, of all people, would bother with recriminations for Brandon's death, Lord Baelish. Not after your, shall we call it, duel with him?
Brandon was as arrogant as he was stupid. Like his father, Lord Stark, who answered Aerys' summon to the capital. They earned their fates. But the younger son, Ned, what was his crime? That Aerys ordered his death as well.
Unlike men, families don't die when you lop off their head.
At the very least, you should have pointed out that loyal and dutiful Ned was living with Jon Arryn, a proud and over-righteous lord with an impregnable castle and no sons of his own. Perhaps you could have spared Aerys the embarrassment of revolt.
If only we'd had the foresight to consult you, Lord Baelish, but I suppose first we'd have had to know who you were.
Ouch.
Nobody knew Robert Baratheon either, yet he claimed the right to sit on the Iron Throne.
He had Targaryen blood, through his mother.
A pretty dress for an ugly truth. It was war, and he could swing a hammer harder than the other options. When did you know you'd lost, Lord Varys?
When Robert Baratheon killed Prince Rhaegar on the Trident.
Wrong. You lost the war when you let Ned Stark slip back into the north. Neither the bloody gate to the Vale or Moat Cailin in the north have ever fallen. They could have held out for years, even if you'd killed Robert. But you let him slip through your fingers as well.
I told the court that Robert was hiding in the Stony Sept, but the hand of the king wasted too much time searching the city. Something about the glory of single combat. Then Ned Stark's army arrived to save the day.
Too bad Lord Tywin wasn't hand any longer. He would have simply razed the town and been done with it.
Perhaps. And perhaps the rebels would have found even more of the countryside flocking to their banners.
I'd almost forgotten. You weren't always so loyal to the Lannisters during the war, were you?
I did my duty to the realm. When Lord Tywin showed up at King's Landing professing loyalty, I warned Aerys not to open the gates. Prince Rhaegar was dead, our army scattered. The lion does not stir unless he smells meat.
I admire your powers of persuasion, Lord Varys. Few could traffic in so many secrets to so little avail.
Grand Maester Pycelle.
It'd be so
told
cool
Aerys
to
what he
see
wanted
all
to
of this
hear,
actually
that his
played out
old
in live
friend
action
Tywin was
instead
there
of
to
just
save
these
him.
stories.
Yeah.
But I feel like they
Aerys'
won't do
old
it
friend
because
sat
everybody
for the
like
city,
knows the
and his
story,
son
so there
stabbed
would be very
Aerys
much
in the
like
back.
suspense.
A regrettable, though necessary action.
But it would be really
As were the pardons the new King Robert
cool to
bestowed
see.
on the royalists. Mace Tyrell, Barristan
They could
Selmy,
have had lots
you.
of seasons.
Yeah.
King Robert wisely chose order over vengeance.
Jon Arryn wisely chose for Robert, but Jon Arryn died. Then Robert, then Ned.
Yeah.
So ended their glorious revolution.
And Westeros has been burning ever since.
Let it.
How Targaryen of you. One of the mad ones.
Fire turns even the proudest oaks to ash, leaving newer roots space to climb.
House Reed. Okay, here's like a reminder of the Reeds again.
Mudmen.
Mudmen.
Those are just the most pleasant names our fellow Northerners have for us. The Crannogmen who live in the swamps of the Neck. Because we do not live in castles like them. Because we do not farm like them. Because we are not tall or rich like them.
What do you have?
Through our veins flows the same blood of the first
Blood.
men. And, at times, maybe something more. We still live much as they did, on floating islands in houses of
fun.
thatch and woven reeds.
Would it be?
We fish,
No.
hunt, and tell our children of our heroes. The knight of the laughing tree who fought in the year of the false spring. The last marsh king who challenged the Starks and lost his crown and his daughter. And other stories, older still, since lost to the world. The Neck was not always a swamp. In the Dawn Age, it was as dry and fertile as the rest of the north. But during the war with the First Men, the children of the forest brought down the hammer of waters on the Neck, trying to break Westeros in two. When the waters finally receded, they left the bogs and swamps we know today. Many of the first
Is
men
there
decided to
explanation of
fight
like
on,
global
but
warming?
my ancestors chose to heed the children's power and advance no farther. They beat their swords into frog spears and fish hooks, and settled a land forever devastated by the folly of war. Unlike the rest of Westeros, we keep no garrisons and raise no soldiers for petty spats with our neighbours. Our land protects its own. An outsider will find in the neck an endless morass of suck holes, quicksands, and green grass that looks solid to the unwary eye, but turns to water the instant you tread on it.
Yeah, hard pass.
If you're lucky enough to be armored, you'll only drown inside your own steel. If you're not, you get to meet what swims in that water. Serpents and monstrous lizard lions with teeth like daggers and never enough to eat. Don't worry, only your horse will live long enough to feel their poisons burning through it.
Ooh.
If you somehow survive all this, you may find that a well-placed dart can be as deadly as any blade. Not that you'll see us blowing it your way. Since the fall of the last Marsh King, House Reed has ruled the Neck beneath the banner of a black lizard lion on a grey-green field. We are not wealthy, powerful, or known even to our own countrymen. Our home, Greywater Watch, is no castle you've ever seen. And seeing it once does not mean you'll ever find it again. For Greywater Watch moves. Many would-be conquerors have died trying to find us. With war all around and our Stark Lord besieged on all sides, many more will doubtless soon try. They will look at us on a map and see a stranglehold for the north. And they will forget that the sea itself once entered the Neck, and not all of it returned.
Creepy. Okay, House Tully, Brynden Tully, that's the Blackfish.
Other houses chose dragons, krakens, and lions for their sigils. We Tullys took the trout.
Because of our pouch.
The most terrifying of fish, especially when it leaps out of the water. I suppose you don't have many options when you live in the Riverlands. Could have been worse. We could have been
ill-tempered
minnows
trout.
or wheat.
With frickin' laser beams
we
on
make
there.
a lot of it.
Those are
Though our
sharks.
land doesn't get as fertile as ours just by water. The old river kings, storm kings, and the kings of the rock spilled blood here for thousands of years, squabbling like children over a new toy, until the Ironborn came and spanked them with their axes. Under Harren the Black, their kingdom stretched all the way to the God's Eye, where they built the largest castle Westeros had ever seen. Maesters teach that Harren was a fool, but he had some sense. If you're going to enslave and torture an entire people, you best have thick walls to hide behind. But the very day the last stone was laid in Harrenhal, Aegon Targaryen landed in Westeros. As soon as he saw Aegon's host on the horizon, my ancestor Edmund led the mass desertion of Riverlords to Aegon's side. I doubt Harren even noticed. The problem with huge castles is they blind you to what's outside, both by their size and the arrogance they inspire. Not that the Ironborn ever lacked for that. They take pride in their ignorance of every trapping of civilization, though any baker could have told them that fire turns stone walls into an oven. And so Harren the Black finally lived up to his name, and the Riverlord swept the Ironborn back to the sea. In return for Edmund's service, House Tully was made Aegon's new Lord Paramount of the Trident, and all the other lords had to swear us fealty. But old habits die hard. The Riverlands are, and always have been, the middle child of Westeros, caught up in every fart from one lord. My ancestors knew that for the Tullys to survive, alliances must be made. Our trout has swum up so many rivers over the centuries and leapt onto so many plates.
That's quite the
it's no wonder
euphemism.
half the realm's sigils don't have fins by now. Thus, every Tully child is taught family, duty, honor, the Tully words, and pains in the Tully arse. When I returned from the War of the Ninepenny Kings, people called me Sir Brynden. But my older brother Hoster called me Engaged. A great match with a very rich house, to be sure. But I just fought and killed a great deal of men and had no desire to be told when and whom to marry. I broke ties with him, earning the name Blackfish along with my personal sigil, a much more intimidating black trapped. I was too stubborn at the time to realize that while other houses fight with swords...
You notice when they show him, though, his, like, armor is really cool. It's, like, black, like, leather scales.
The betrothal to Brandon
Very
Stark
cool.
drew us into the war against the Mad King, while my other niece Lysa's betrothal to Jon Arryn cemented the rebellion. If I'd have obeyed my older brother earlier, we'd have had the largest navy in Westeros with us then as well, and
they didn't really need it.
would have been swift. Of course, I never mentioned this fact to my brother. He'd have taken it as an apology. My brother is dead now, and my nephew Edmure rules in Riverrun.
I was just editing that video.
A trout that can't tell the worm from the hook. But he is a Tully, and he is unmarried, and there is a war. We all know how this story ends. Maybe she'll be beautiful. Maybe she'll be rich. As long as she brings swords and men to House Tully, she could look like the fish we hang all over Riverrun. He'll honor his duty to family and swallow it. One blackfish per family can be overlooked. 2, and we'd have to change all those pretty banners.
Oh, House Bolton.
Crazy guy.
Roose Bolton. No relation to Michael.
Like the Starks, the blood of House Bolton runs back to the first men. Singers call those times the Age of Heroes.
This is
A
the
mask for a
father,
savage
though.
world
That's
that
Yes,
bred
yeah.
savage men.
Yeah. What was his son's name again?
The Lannisters swindled their
Ramsay.
enemies.
Ramsay.
The Storm
Ramsay
Kings
Snow.
honored them, and
Right.
the Starks cut
That's
off their
what it
heads.
Yeah.
In such
Crazy,
company as
yeah.
this, were the Boltons really so...
There's Theon.
Yeah.
Unlike some other houses, my ancestors owned the Bolton words, "Our blades are sharp." They passed down not a Valyrian greatsword, but a knife, honed and thin enough to fit between the topmost layer of skin and the tissue below, and peel.
No. Oh, why?
Learned as
That was too
a
visual. I
naked
hated
man
that.
has few secrets, a flayed man none. In those dark days, they say that some of my more willful forebearers would even wear their enemies' skins as cloaks.
Yeah, that's
but no
gross,
such
man.
tokens
It's
remain,
like Silence of the
if they ever existed.
Does it wear the lotion on the skin?
Certainly not hanging in
The
some
lotion
secret
on the
room
skin.
in the Dreadfort, as old wives and fools insist. I suspect my house itself was responsible for spreading such rumors in the first place. Few weapons are as effective as terror, and this was an age of war. House against house, brother against brother. The Iron Men were on the rise, and never far from our shores. We must have seemed ripe for the taking, too busy fighting each other to deal with the raiders as they deserved. Thus the Starks took it upon themselves to unify the North, under them. They drove the pirates out of White Knife and claimed the eastern coast, and married the Marsh King's daughter for the neck. A Stark wrestled for Bear Island and won. Or so they say. Silly stories. Blood and Steel won the North, and the Starks had the most of both. After years of war, the sisters gave up their barbaric practices and bent the knee to their new kings. Thus House Bolton became what we are today. Loyal bannermen and staunch ally to the Starks. And the second greatest house in
Like
the
a
North.
string cheese?
No, like the actual candy called Poland peels.
Oh, I don't know those.
You don't?
No. I'm not a candy person.
They're like
House Frey,
licorice.
Catelyn Stark.
Some
Oh yeah,
houses
definitely
rose to
hate
power
licorice.
through strength. Others,
I was thinking
They
of
don't.
cheese
They
string.
don't taste good.
House Frey gained its
It's like
title
chemical.
through cunning. Centuries ago, its founder looked at a map and noticed how the trident spears the neck, cutting off the north from the south. He realized that a river of gold would flow to the man who owned the right bridge across the water. It took the Freys 3 generations to complete their forefathers' vision.
See, this is what I mean.
Massive arch
It took
of
them
smooth
3
grey
generations to like build
wide
this, and
enough
that other
for
guy
2
built
wagons
7
to pass
castles in his
these.
lifetime. That's
When they were down,
wild.
They built
Yeah.
high curtain walls, deep moats, and heavy gates to protect the approaches, and put up squat, ugly, formidable keeps on either bank. The twins.
commanding both road and river with arrow slits, murder holes, and portcullises. The twins ensure that no one crosses without begging the Frey's leave and paying the Frey's toll. The plan worked. The family grew rich and powerful, exacting gold from lords, merchants, and poor farmers.
Too many
A good thing
daughters.
too, given the number of Freys the bridge has to support.
Yeah.
The current lord, Walder Frey, has seen over 90 name days and sired near as many children, true-born or otherwise. A shameful thing in any other lord, but Walder Frey possesses no shame. A dangerous thing for any other lord, but Walder Frey has no concern for heirs or fear of their impatience. Perhaps Lord Frey thinks to outlast them. Given the infighting he encourages among them, perhaps he will. Whatever the case, House Frey does nothing so well as survive. When the Ironborn conquered and razed the Riverlands, the Freys hid in their castle. When Aegon and House Tully swept the Ironborn back to their islands, the Freys hid in their castle. When my ancestor demanded their allegiance as Aegon's new Lord Paramount of the Trident, the Freys bent the knee from their castle. Perhaps then we should not have been surprised when my father,
why
Lord
leave?
Hoster,
If you're
called his
protected, I
banners
guess.
against the Mad King, and Lord Walder didn't answer. The Baratheons, Starks, Aarons, and Tullys, some of the oldest and greatest houses of Westeros, fought and bled for the cause of justice, while House Frey hid in its castle and waited. No doubt if Rhaegar had won at the Trident, Lord Walder would have given him safe passage into the north to destroy the rest of my husband's northern army for a fair price. But Rhaegar fell, and lo and behold, the Frey army appeared to render aid to our already victorious forces. Many sniggered that Lord Walder had been waiting for his army to come of age, having fielded it out of his own breeches. My own father named him the late Lord Frey, to the other lords' amusement. A slight that pricks Lord Walder to this day. In many ways,
Well,
however,
he got
Lord
even,
Walder-
so...
He definitely got even.
We had no guarantee of victory, and had he fought with us from the outset and we failed, he would have lost the bridge his family was so proud of. More pride than honor. Those should be the words of House Frey. Yet part of me wonders if Lord Walder waited not out of fear but hope. That we would be destroyed, leaving him to assume my family's place as Lord Paramount of the Trident. To buy the respect they've always wanted, but refused to earn. No. Not even Lord Walder could be so disloyal.
And that's it.
Soaking it all in.
Yeah. Is there anything that immediately comes to mind that, like, giving you a little bit more backstory on some of the families, or?
It probably is. I just.
Well, that's fair enough. Okay, so why don't we call that one a day for this episode?
Yeah.
And then we'll see. By the time we're ready to do the next one, I think we'd maybe like to try to do a live with our Patreon fam.
A
live reaction to this, and then that way we can get some like feedback while we're going through it as well.
A live reaction to a Histories and Lore.
Yeah.
So more to think about. Oh
To
my
a history
gosh.
and lore?
Yeah,
That's a
Why
lot.
that?
well, they actually asked for it, so
Really?
yes, yeah.
Oh, my brain's gonna go.
Oh my god, really? I mean, woo.
Lots of pauses
Oh,
then maybe.
Oh yeah, for
because,
sure. Yeah, because then we can talk to people
Yeah.
and stuff
Oh,
too.
God, I'm really gonna have
And
to.
then people might have better questions than I do too. So
My brain.
Oh my
maybe.
god, that makes me really nervous.
oh, you're
It's just
fine.
that my brain processes slow, and then I often need to go back and rewatch.
That's okay.
All right.
Well, now I've made them really. Study for your test. But I think we could do it.
Well, yeah, we'll do it. We'll make it happen.
Yeah.
We're here to make dreams come true.
Okay. Thanks very much for watching with us. We'll see you on the next one.
Thanks.
Bye.
Hey guys, just wanted to take a quick second here to thank all our Patreon subscribers listed here.
Thanks everybody
Thanks
so
so
much.
much.
Your support means so much to us.
We appreciate you.